I'm Shae Russell from mining.com.au, and I'm coming to you once again from the Noosa Mining Conference in Noosa. Joining me today is a man who needs little introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. It is Andrew Vigar, the Executive Chairman of Terra Uranium. Andrew, once again, it is great to see you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And a lovely sunny day in Noosa, although cold. I've got a jacket on. People don't normally wear jackets in Noosa.
And that was obvious by the jackets they were dusting out from their last Melbourne trip 10 years ago.
It feels like Melbourne.
It was very bitter this morning. Now, you have got some exciting uranium price movement and supply and demand issues that we're going to get into shortly.
Sure.
But the last time you and I talked, we were talking about Australia embracing a nuclear industry. And I just want to touch on something, a conversation you and I had off camera. And that is, during our initial conversation, I asked you if Australia could even build a nuclear uranium industry, seeing as we don't have the intellectual capital here. But off camera, you said that actually I'm wrong and that South Australia might lead the way on this. Why is that?
Yeah, and I think South Australia will, because you need the people. It's all about people, of course. And we're part of the AUKUS Alliance, and with the subs are coming to Australia. They're nuclear subs. They run a small version. They basically run a small modular reactor, an SMR in a submarine. That's where the technology comes from. And you need the scientists, the engineers, the nuclear engineers to run those and service them. We've already started training those people. Those subs are going to be built and operated in South Australia. It'll take 5 or 10 years, but we'll gradually develop that expertise, and that'll be largely based in South Australia. So that'll gradually flow over to the general industry side, and people will say, well, we've got the people, we've got the uranium, one of the biggest mines in the world in Olympic Dam. Why don't we build some reactors ourselves for domestic use? So it will come, but we have to get over that political hurdle, which is what I was talking about last time we chatted.
And you also made the comment off camera that South Australia may even be, like, they have a Labor government in power right now, and this is unfortunately a highly political topic right now. But you theorise that South Australia could be the first state to flip on the nationwide nuclear energy ban. Why do you think that?
I think so, because nuclear should not be politicised.
Yes.
I mean, out of all the G20 countries, we're the only one that doesn't have a nuclear industry. There's only one, and that's us. It will come, and it has to be depoliticised, which means that we know the Liberal National parties are on board. We now need the Labor Party to come on board. The Labor Party have been in the past. Bob Hawke was a big supporter of the nuclear industry. It's just a matter of an internal shift. The AWU, for instance, is on board with it. Some of the unions are. It will gradually come as people realise that it's in fact a safe, reliable source of zero carbon power. So you just have to be patient. Sensible heads will prevail. And when the politics goes out of it and we just start looking at things from a genuine, hard-nosed point of view, it will come.
You have been in the uranium industry and an advocate for nuclear energy within Australia for a considerable period of
long time.
So you are a lesson in patience. Now, flipping it to price movements and supply and demand in the uranium market. Now, obviously, most people only talk about the spot price in uranium, which, based on previous conversation you and I have had, that's really only about a quarter of the real uranium demand. Most uranium price setting is done via contracts. Tell me, what is happening in this market right now?
They're private contracts. Officially, nobody knows because they are private contracts. There is a process you have to go through to produce fuel rods for a nuclear power station. The fuel rods then contract a enricher, and the enricher then contracts a primary supplier, and it all goes down through the chain. This is all done on long-term contracts, which are for delivery of fuel rods in, say, 5 to 7 years' time, not today. So it's a very long period. Although the largest reactor fleet by percentages, the French, the largest by volume is still the Americans. They have more reactors than anyone else and the biggest supply by far. So the American utilities, of course, control the long-term price. They're very secretive. None of it's made public. But there are people in the industry who sort of know, and you get a bit of feedback on what's happening with price. The spot price has been sitting around 85 now for several months. It was over 100 at Christmas. It's settled, it's not gone down, which is great. What's not known is what the long-term price is, but the feeling is that is approaching also that $85 price. So whereas at Christmas it was around 65, 70, it's creeping up towards 85. So the two prices are coming together.
Yep.
When they start to come together, all of a sudden you start to get pressure on the spot market. Because if the buyers can buy it cheaper in the spot market, then they'll buy some to top up their reserves. So that's when you start getting pressure on the spot price, and it may start to move again. That usually happens in the second half of the year, which is when most of the long-term contracts are signed. So
Interesting.
if you just look at a chart, you'll see it every year. Around that August, September, October, the spot price will start to go up. It happened last year. It should happen again this year.
I feel like that is probably the most exciting takeaway for uranium investors, to learn that you're right, the second half of the year is that big takeoff. Tell me then, just before we wrap up today's conversation, even though, you know, these contracts are done on a long-term basis over many years, how is the supply in the uranium market looking right now? Because there was a bit of a supply crunch in the second half of last year.
There was, and that hasn't gone away.
Okay.
So it's still there. There's still nothing coming out of Kazakhstan.
Oh.
Well, there is, but it's going to China and Russia and India, and it's on fixed contracts. The last big contract in Kazakhstan went to the Russians, so there's very little coming but because of the long-term cycle of long-term contracts, it was taking 5, 7, 10 years. That doesn't have an immediate effect. The US utilities have plenty of stocks. They're not terribly worried.
Yeah.
It'll take them a year or two to start getting worried. At the same time, US enrichment capacity, which is what they need, will start to come online. So people say, oh, there's no enrichment capacity in the US. But there will be. The plants are there, they just need to be expanded and brought back online again. As I've said many times, never underestimate the Americans. When they get their mind set on something, which is a big job, but when they're focused on something, they will go for it. And that will happen. So all that will shift. And that's why, you know, Terra Uranium's in Canada. We believe it's Canada, Australia, and the US are the places. If you want to look for uranium supply, go to one of those parts of the world, because that's a very tight community that's not subject to political winds and variations.
Look, we were going to end today's conversation there, but let's talk about just very briefly, for everyone who might never have heard of the legendary Andrew Vigar. Let's talk about, touch on lightly the Terra's projects in Canada, because you are in highly, richly endowed uranium areas within Canada.
Yeah.
Let's go over those projects very quickly.
Yeah, so we're obviously focused in the Athabasca Basin in Canada. That's exploration projects. We're looking for world-class large deposits. We've just in the process of acquiring another project a bit further north, which is a US-style sandstone hosted deposit, lower grade but larger. There's 15 million pounds of NI 43-101 resource there. We'll close that soon, and then we're looking for partners to drill our major projects in the Athabasca, which we're very close to completing. I know I've said that before, but this time it's going to happen.
Well, you know what? It takes a long time to get minerals.
Patience.
Yeah, these minerals took hundreds of millions of years to form. They need a couple more years to get out of the ground. Listen, Andrew, it is always a pleasure when I get to have these conversations with you. It's never enough time. Thank you so much for being here today, and great to see you in Noosa.
Thanks, Shae. And everybody should come to Noosa. It's a great event.
I agree.